The Amazing World of Gumball is a show that probably doesn't need much of an introduction. You've likely seen it airing on Cartoon Network once or twice, stumbled across it from random memes, and seen those out-of-context clips of many episodes on YouTube. And you may agree that it's a great show. And what is super neat is that the show is returning with a new 7th season, which is titled The Wonderfully Weird World of Gumball this time. However, there's something most fans don't know. A while back, I recall stumbling across a forum thread, one of those obscure and archived ones, involving people talking about an unaired episode that was intended to be the real Season 6 finale of the show. This was way before the 7th season was in development, and people at Cartoon Network actually wanted the series to end after this episode, forever. Which means no 7th season, the title being The Jealousy, and according to what I have read, Cartoon Network almost went through with airing it until they didn't. It was quietly buried and scrapped, then replaced with the Inquisition. It was done with a different art style. It wasn't written or animated by the usual people for previous episodes, but rather someone Ben Bouquet allegedly gave permission to, a freelance creator or experimental animator. The art style was still recognizable. It was just a rougher, handmade version of the show. Like the show was working with half the usual budget, but of course, use the same voice actors, the usual realistic and normal backgrounds, and typical elements you expect from the show. And notably, the episode was intended to be the direct sequel to Season 2's episode, The Sidekick, which focused on Darwin being tired of being, as the name states, Gumball's sidekick. And according to those who have seen it, or parts of it, the Jealousy episode pushed things further than any Gumball episode ever had. Cartoon Network apparently shelved it after early Eternal screenings that led to complaints, such as some claiming that it was too disturbing for the show's demographic, and others said that it felt like an entirely different series. But if the rumors were true, the episode was actually, and apparently, fully completed. The user on the forum would also later upload what they claimed to be the full transcript of the episode, along with a decent amount of screenshots from the original file. Now, the original post was a mess. It was full of grammatical errors, poorly formatted, and just a giant wall of unedited text. So I decided to copy the entire thing and put it through Google Docs and clean it up a bit. But didn't want to change the story itself, but make it readable so I can tell it to you. I left the screenshots untouched, but what I found while editing still lingers in the back of my mind. The episode started off with a normal intro. It was normal. However, then it got to the main title of the episode, reading The Jealousy. Something seemed off about it. There was nothing concerning, of course, as when the fun game-like text showed up. It did use the title template, specifically the "duh" used before the word associated with the specific episode. Like the DVD, for example, from other episodes. But the Jealousy font looked familiar, but pretty different. It was much thicker and looked to be poorly edited into the title card. The theme that played during this intro was somewhat disturbing. It sounded glitchy, and the short theme was just depressing. Other than that, the intro played out normally, showing the writers and more. The episode started off in the hallway of Elmore Junior High, with Darwin greeting Gumball in his cheerful tone.
"Morning, Gumball,"
said Darwin. Gumball sounded distracted.
"Hey, let's go. We are late for class,"
he said. Darwin then realizes that Gumball is right. The bell rings as the screen pans to the classroom with students entering with Miss Simeon standing next to the door, excitedly counting, hoping to punish the Blue Watterson and send him to detention. Gumball begins running, not even bothering to grab his brother's hand as he runs towards the classroom. Darwin tries to catch up and tries to chime in, asking his brother about plans for the day, clearly rushing.
"I don't know, bro. I'm thinking about just picking on Miss Simeon and maybe after school hanging out with Penny or something."
Darwin sighs.
"Maybe I can leave today."
They make it into the classroom and sit down. Gumball out of breath, and then he just stares at Darwin.
"Sure, Darwin. Later."
He stares at him for a moment before sighing in irritation. Throughout the day, Gumball was just using Darwin for many absurd activities, such as trying to use him to get away from problems, such as insulting Tina for how badly she played the maracas he recommended she played for many episodes ago, despite it being a sarcastic joke, and Gumball being chased, even dragging his brother. Gumball and Darwin get cornered inside of the gym as Tina frighteningly tells them, mostly Gumball, to apologize. This time, Darwin decided to stand up for his brother.
"Alright, you reptilian freak. Back off and leave my brother alone."
Tina taunts him, asking him what he's going to do, and then he just stands there imitated as he looks over to where his brother was. He was gone. Darwin's expression switched immediately from fear to irritation really fast.
"Okay, there's no way he just did that to me."
Tina just roared at Darwin, but he just stared, cracking his knuckles as the screen then panned into Tina's widening pupils. Normally, she would find this sudden anger to be pathetic, but she can't see for Darwin that he shouldn't be messed with. He grabbed her by the tail with surprising strength as he slammed her into the ground about, if I remember, once, twice, or even 10 times, causing her to groan and then go unconscious. Gumball just stood at the door in complete and utter disbelief as Darwin walked out of the gym, glaring at Gumball and then sighing as he walked off. Gumball, unsure of himself, just continued on with his day. He was eating at the cafeteria. The food he was eating specifically wasn't important, but he glared over at Alan, the happy-go-lucky cyan balloon that he had a grudge over for the most pathetic reason ever, that he was too happy. However, it seemed as though Gumball is having a change of heart this episode, which wasn't shocking, as despite being a problematic child with a massive ego and sometimes obnoxious personality, he has shown that he deeply cared for others. As he walked nervously to his table, he was eating with his girlfriend, Carmen.
"Hey, Alan, may I tell you something?"
Gumball asked, with a guilty expression, as if he were remembering the behavior he had with Alan before.
"Of course, Gumball. You can tell me anything."
Alan said in his usual cheerful tone as Gumball began to say something that shocked him and Carmen.
"I am sorry. I'm really sorry for the way I've been treating you for a while now. I just feel that the way I was treating you wasn't right.
It was clear that what he had been apologizing for, and he did it without even struggling with his words in a comedic way. It just came out, and Alan understood deeply, even Carmen. Gumball's apology was genuine, and what confirmed that he was telling the truth was him even going as far as to hug Alan, not even strangling him as he did in the faith, but an actual hug. There was something unsettling about this. Not scary, but it's just the fact of how unusual it was. It's like a sign that something bigger is changing and that Gumball was finally growing up. But that only made what followed afterwards even more tragic. The screen then cuts to Gumball and Darwin on the bus. Here he tries super hard to start a conversation with him, even trying to get a chuckle out of him by tickling him, and surprisingly, not a single chuckle. Gumball just stared at him, eventually sighing. Even some of the students on the bus, Terry, Tobias, Sarah, Banjo, Carrie, Penny, and the others, were concerned by Darwin's sudden behavior. In the same way as Gumball, as the two are usually seen talking all the time and discussing plans about what they will do when they get home. Rocky eventually stopped the bus as the two walked to the house without saying a word. Richard was just lying on the couch watching TV, and Anaya's next to him, and Nicole was in the kitchen. She heard the door open and welcomed her kids home and asked how school was. Gumball just stated that his day was good and how he made up with Alan, but before he finished, Darwin rudely interrupted his brother and just walked up to their bedroom and slammed the door. Gumball winced. Nicole looked up from the kitchen sink, visibly startled, and Richard didn't really react much as Anais broke the silence by saying,
"What did you do?"
He just stood there and had no answer. The family started having dinner later as it became night, having a regular conversation, but Darwin was absent. The scene cuts to him looking at the yearbook in the bedroom, staring at his photo, Gumball's shadow, and how he was labeled as his boss. Irritated, he slammed the book closed and placed it beside him. Darwin started to speak to himself.
"It's been years, and they still didn't update the yearbook. Everybody got perfect photos. Even he got a new photo, and mine remains a shadow. Why not let me have an actual picture?"
Then they all went to bed. Gumball was the only one asleep. With Anais on the top bunk, Gumball then sighed and looked over at the empty fishbowl that Darwin slept in. Then he teared up as he slept for the night without his brother around. The scene then cuts to the empty school. Darwin quietly sat in the classroom with the yearbook on his desk as he glared at it.
"I am sick of being a sidekick. I wish I had a reader that let me be me, not just some second act in their circus,"
Darwin muttered. But in the background, a glitched shadow was in the corner as Darwin continued his rant.
"I hate Gumball. I hate him. I really do."
The shadow then spoke. His singular eye stared at him, static here and there.
"Well said, my friend. I think I have an idea."
Darwin watches as the figure emerges and reveals himself, recognizing the figure as he sighs and just nods as he awaits what the figure will say next, willing to do anything he says. Before the figure explains, the scene cuts to Gumball waking up as he tiredly says morning to Anais and Darwin. However, no response was said. Gumball got up, brushed his teeth and everything, and then went on with his usual day.
Dad?
He called out to Richard as he went down the stairs.
Darwin? Dad? Anais?
Gumball called out. He didn't call out Nicole yet, as she is normally working at the Rainbow Factory around this time. Gumball begins to slowly become calm as he enters the kitchen and decides to make himself some breakfast, hoping that they're just at the store or something. However, as Gumball picked out some bacon and eggs to cook for himself, he noticed an empty jar sitting on the top inside of the fridge. And then, memories of the microwave showed up on screen as he found out that Kenneth, the ghost jar creature, had escaped.
What's going on?
Gumball muttered under his breath. He was completely aware that Darwin is upset, but he had no clue that this was connected to him or not. Gumball just tried getting his mind off the odd and eerie situation as he finished cooking his food. As he sat on the couch and turned on the news, he then noticed a disturbing broadcast as the realistic human news reporter, as seen in the show, began to report what happened. Breaking news. Students in Elmore have been vanishing mysteriously, but they're not the only people. It's reported that many adults and staff members are also missing. The police force is currently getting to the bottom of this. Gumball then turns off the TV immediately and begins hyperventilating in a comedic way, but still genuine, as he panically says,
This can't be happening. Is this why it's so quiet at this moment?
Gumball gets up, and it goes on a little montage where he begins searching many places, including the Forest of Doom, the mall, which showed no signs of Larry working in any of the stores and food courts, and eventually the school. This entire scene was like what happened in the Downer, where Gumball was shown in a bad mood, and everybody in Elmore disappeared. But this felt genuine. Gumball begins to call names as he investigates the school, creeped out by the dark and abandoned atmosphere. It felt like something straight out of a horror movie. He tiptoed into a storage room and then found the yearbook. But it showed Darwin's yearbook photo with red, glitchy text. Not enough.
He felt erased,
whispered Gumball. He then entered Principal Brown's office and checked the school cameras. Nothing. And there was no camera in the classroom where Darwin was last seen. But as he leaned into a wall, it opened like a door, revealing an extra office. Inside, he witnessed a disturbing sight in the surveillance footage of Elmore, where Darwin was in the center of many kidnapping scenes. He did nothing but gasp. He knew what to do. He needed to save his friends and didn't care if he had to get through Darwin, regardless of what he needed to do. Whatever works to save Elmore. He left the school, feeling a bit disturbed by the atmosphere, because who wouldn't? Being in a school at night while empty is disturbing. He just walked to the parking lot, a multi-story car parking place across the mall. He began searching for his missing friends and family, and then came across a familiar sight. There was a red van nearby, the Awesome Store. Gumball casually approaches.
Not again.
As he got close, the van's slide door slid open, revealing the eyes of the shopkeeper in complete darkness, which startled Gumball a bit, but he knew who he was, which brought back a sense of security.
Gumball Larson. Always a pleasure to see a familiar face in these trying times.
The shopkeeper said in his usual mystical tone. Then Gumball asked,
What are you doing here? And why are you still selling your stuff?
Business is business, but today I offer something different. A tool for someone who understands the weight of responsibility.
said the shopkeeper, as he reaches for something and holds out the universal remote despite it being destroyed in the rerun.
The universal remote? Didn't Robbie use that to...
Gumball asked before being interrupted.
Indeed, but its potential isn't inherently evil. It's all about the wielder's intent.
Said the shopkeeper as Gumball hesitates.
And you trust me with this?
The shopkeeper says,
I trust that you will make the right choice. Take it, no charge.
Gumball, after a moment of hesitation, finally accepted.
Thanks, I think.
As Gumball turns to leave, the shopkeeper says his final words.
Remember, Gumball, power doesn't corrupt. It's the lack of understanding that does.
After the shopkeeper told him this, he went on his way. Gumball knows what he must do, but first he must find Kenneth and stop him before he kills and destroys Elmore. However, it wasn't long until he noticed that the town seemed more decrepit and destroyed than before.
No, there's no way. Did Darwin actually release him?
Gumball whispered. And then he saw Kenneth in the distance. He was just there attacking Hector, but disturbingly, Kenneth appeared more sinister and monstrous than in the previous episodes he appeared in, as if the animator was having fun with the design and making him much more intimidating. As Kenneth was attacking Hector, calling out his fur and biting off chunks of his body, causing the giant to fall to the ground. Gumball watched and with widened eyes, and then in an effort to avenge one of his friends, he uses the remote. The camera zooms into Gumball's fingers as he pressed the AC button, causing a portal into the void, revealing the static and where the mistakes of reality go. To open up as Kenneth tries to super hard to run, but trips and gets stuck in as Gumball closes it.
Sorry, the son Darwin and I both created. Nobody hurts my friends like this. And I make no exceptions now.
Said Gumball in a cold, heroic way as he held the remote.
But that reminds me, Hector, what happened to his home and his mother?
Gumball then ventures out from the town to the cave where Hector and his mom live. It was buried over a pile of rubble, but that didn't stop Gumball, as he had the remote with him anyway, which allowed him to record, select some of the rocks, and then press play as he pointed the object behind him, causing them to roll off the hill. He wasted no time as he walked inside. He was met with an unsurprising sight. Nobody was there, not even Hector's mom. But the thing is, everything was left as if they were just there and were disappearing in real time.
What the what?
Gumball whispered as he noticed how the setting didn't look like a break-in or anything. And everything was, again, left intact. Gumball sighs, turns around, and returns to the school with the remote still remaining in his hand, not ever wanting to let go of it. He then went back to where he came from, investigating more scenes, and then he came across some disturbing sights. Gumball saw his family strapped down in one of the classrooms, specifically Miss Simeon's room. The object holding them tight was metallic and had a green light signaling that it was locked. Then he saw Miss Simeon. She was tied to the desk. And underneath her was a saw blade. It was on, spinning in a fast manner. Even Gumball was disturbed by this, and he, along with many students, hated her guts.
Who did this to you guys?
Gumball asked shakingly, and Nicole, while with teary eyes, was able to explain what happened, as luckily the family wasn't duct taped, except for the teacher. Darwin did this to us, but under the command of a certain someone. Gumball pauses for a moment and asks, "Wait, really?" Nicole nodded, and Richard added on, "And he's actually being serious this time while still keeping his stupidity intact." "Yeah, when you were asleep, he apparently snuck out and then came back when we woke up before you did. When he then grabbed Anais, me, and Nicole. I asked what was going on, and he said..." Gumball then notices the pause in his dad's sentence and asks,
Come on, Dad, please finish what he said to you.
Then Richard's eyes started to water as he said, "He just said, I am just too dumb to notice anything's wrong anyway." This alone made Gumball upset, despite how in the past he usually made fun of his father, but here he doesn't tolerate his family being treated with disrespect, especially how Darwin wouldn't go around calling his parents that, and on top of that, abducting them. Gumball sighs and looks at the remote in his hands as he stares at his parents.
Don't worry, I will stop Darwin.
After checking the rooms, there were no signs of Darwin. Instead, he found the students, such as Penny, Alan, Carmen, Tobias, Banana Joe, Carrie, Molly, and many others, even with their parents tied up with their respective child. Many of the rooms didn't feel like classrooms or anything. The old doors were torn off their hinges and replaced with something that came straight out of a prison cell. Nothing but bars. On top of that, Gumball noticed a common scene, and that some of the students and staff were attached to dangerous medieval devices. Gumball was disturbed to see that some were physically beaten. For example, Principal Brown's fur was torn off, leaving some red spots behind. Gumball started to reassure every victim that he would save them all, as he kept noticing that the other people were the rest of the general residents of Elmore outside of school. He then approached the gym door and opened it. On the left, he saw a massive chalkboard with a strategy diagram showcasing a full layout of Elmore, from streets to homes, and eventually key figures, all marked like targets. Then Gumball stared into the darkness in front of him, and then a familiar figure emerged, orange and full of hatred. Darwin showed up, climbing up onto a raised platform of stacked desks. And then he spoke.
Funny how you get to make mistakes and still be the hero.
Gumball looked overpowered with anger as Darwin began to taunt his brother.
I see. You're just mad because I finally stopped being your sidekick.
Gumball, completely irritated, not by the insult, but what he did to everybody he loved, screamed and then ran towards Darwin. And before he tackled him to the ground, Gumball was interrupted by a similar voice.
Hello, Gumball Watterson.
Rob emerges from the darkness, unaware of the remote in his hand, as Darwin coldly explains why he chose to join him, which made Gumball angrier by the minute as Rob finishes.
We control Elmore now.
Then Darwin says,
I'm no sidekick anymore.
Then Gumball presses the eject button, causing the desk underneath him to be launched away, causing Darwin to trip in the process by the impact. Rob watches as he reveals that he was holding Banana Barbara hostage and then forces her to paint a crack in front of Gumball, causing the ground to, of course, crack.
Darwin, this didn't need to go this way. I get that you were jealous, but this is going too far.
Gumball looks at Darwin with tears in his eyes, which causes Darwin to feel guilty, but he snaps out of it, Gumball placing the remote in his pocket as he then tackles Darwin. Darwin is taken aback by the sudden attack as he grins and pushes Gumball back. But it seems like Gumball knew what to do as he jumps over the crack set by Rob and kicks him away. As he gets Banana Barbara to paint a force, pushing Rob back, Gumball presses the AC button, causing of the void to appear. Then he motions her to keep stalling him so he can deal with Darwin. Gumball uses the remote to record the sliding desk by pressing play in front of Darwin, knocking him close to Rob and the void. Darwin then groaned, slowly crawling across the cracked floor, weak and disoriented. The once kind goldfish was now bruised, and Gumball stood over him, remote still clenched in his trembling hand.
You still don't get it, do you?
Said Darwin, his voice weaker now.
I am not your brother anymore. I finally get to be me.
Gumball spoke, shaking his hand as he said,
No, this isn't you.
Then Rob, badly injured, but still conscious, reached toward Darwin.
It's too late. He chose me, and you can't undo what's already corrupted.
Gumball, overhearing that, knew what he had to do. He used the remote to eject the two, one being his arch-nemesis and the other being his adopted brother, pet, and former best friend, close to the void. Rob and Darwin are starting to panic, but are too injured to even run away as Gumball gets closer and closer. Then Darwin then looks up at him for one last time and speaks.
Wanted to treat me like a psychic the whole time. Well, I'm gonna say this now. I hate you.
Darwin shouted in Gumball's face as he strangled him. Gumball didn't react much as he just kicked Darwin, sending him flying into Rob's lap as they fell into the void. Gumball sighs as the portal closes. Then he looks down and sees a button that fell out of Rob's hand. He picks it up and presses it. In the background of the scene, the devices keeping the citizens trapped were heard, releasing them from the straps holding them down. Gumball did nothing but stand there as he kneeled down and sobbed softly to himself. Nicole and Anais and Richard entered the gym and approached quietly. Nicole and Anais then hugged him, and Richard placed his hand on Gumball's shoulder. Nicole says tearfully, "You were brave. You had to." And Richard added that to what she said. "He always looked up to you, but you had to do what had to be done." It wasn't long until the other citizens showed up. Students and parents, including the staff, they watched from a distance. Some appeared relieved and shaken. Anais then spoke.
We are still here for you. Like the others said, you had to do what you needed to do.
Penny showed up as he comforted Gumball, and she hugged and kissed him.
You saved us.
Gumball didn't react much, but sat there with the remote still in his hand, and looked at Banana Joe, reuniting with his mom. Gumball sighed and told Banana Barbara,
I'm sorry for what Darwin and Rob did to you.
Banana Barbara walked up to Gumball and patted him on the head.
It's fine. None of it is your fault.
Gumball said nothing for a moment, then replied,
It kind of was. He wanted to be himself. But if he wanted to be so, he could have just asked. He didn't need to resort to this.
Suddenly a familiar voice said,
Gumball, it's okay. You did what was right.
He was shocked by the voice and looked behind him and saw Alan as he smiled up, got up and hugged him. Then came the final scene. It appears that it's been days since Darwin's death. It was a Saturday, luckily so they could rest, and Gumball, who no longer has the remote in his hand, probably because he gave it back to the van's shopkeeper, Annie's, Nicole, and Richard were seen sitting in their house at the dining table. They looked happier than they did before, as they figured focusing too much on Darwin's death makes things worse. So they just sat there and ate. They heard the doorbell ring, and Gumball got up and opened it, revealing Principal Brown and two officers holding a former-looking employee.
We've assigned the damages.
One of the officers said sternly,
And while the full liberty would normally fall on the responsible party, which is gone.
He paused, tapping the paper.
That said, the school district will need someone to hold accountable, and that someone is you.
Brown added.
Yeah, the official report lists Darwin as the member of this family, saying that you failed to control him. It's just policy.
As this was said, Gumball sat on the floor, covering his face in his hands, clearly guilty, as again, he partially started this, and Nicole clenched her fist but nodded. We will pay whatever it takes.
The district was willing to lighten the fine, considering the circumstances.
Brown continued, as his voice trembling.
We also took the account of statements by several parents, including students and staff, who agreed to not press charges against you.
Richard looked confused. Wait, we are going to get arrested? Aeneas muttered.
We still might if Mom doesn't agree to the repayment.
One of the officers stepped forward and added quietly,
This wasn't just vandalism. Some people were traumatized. You understand how serious this is, right?
Nicole immediately nodded gravely. We do. The episode ended with the officers and Principal Brown walking away as Nicole closed the door and saw Gumball coming back, holding Darwin's fishbowl, as he stared at it sadly and sat back on the floor. The family just sat next to him and comforted him. Richard scooped him up in his arms and sat him down on the couch with the others. During this, Gumball's brain imagined Darwin standing next to the family, arms on his side, as if nothing happened, but heavily disfigured like Rob. The credits were the same, and the theme and everything played like any other episode. Well, that was the episode described in the forums, and honestly, while some details still linger in my mind, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as I thought. In fact, I actually enjoyed it, and it could have worked as a strangely fitting season 6 finale of the show. It wasn't as creepy as I expected. Instead, it leaned more into sadness and tragedy. Still, I can't say for sure if the man on the forums was telling the truth, or if he just made the whole thing up to scare people. The only evidence were the supposed screenshots, which allegedly came from the episode. Even so, I can't imagine something like this airing, because the show was never shied away from getting unexpectedly dark, realistic, and even depressing. This was no different, of course. Of course, the jealousy would need heavy edits to be considered appropriate for all ages, particularly the moments where Elmore citizens were shown strapped down, badly injured, or worse. The most disturbing part was to be Miss Simeon hanging above a still spinning saw blade. And then there were the violent deaths of Hector and Tina. Those were the scenes that probably pushed it to be lost, and why it never could have aired in its raw form. Aside from that, the episode itself was pretty good, and I actually hope you enjoyed hearing about it as much as I did reading about it. After reading, I tried playing detective, digging deeper to find if the episode was real. I sent messages to Cartoon Network and even reached out to Ben McLeod himself, only to receive the same flat response. What are you talking about? The jealousy doesn't exist. A few staff members hinted at something similar being worked on at one point, but whatever that was genuine or just them having fun in my expense, I'll never know, and maybe that's for the best.